Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something truly fascinating today. We're going to be exploring a really unique, comprehensive spiritual framework, often referred to as Jungbub, that tackles some of the absolute toughest questions of the human experience. We're talking human hardship, profound suffering, and ultimately our core purpose, but looking at it all through a completely different lens. If you love structured, thought-provoking concepts that totally challenge the way you view everyday struggles, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
So the source material actually kicks things off with this absolute unit of a question from a researcher to the speaker. They ask, do negative mental states, things like deep ignorance, heavy attachments, or intense anger, do they just cause psychological stress, or do they literally alter our physical reality right down to the microscopic, quantum level of molecules and atoms? Like, can the mind actually break down the physical order of the body? It's a massive, mind-bending question, and it completely sets the stage for a paradigm shift in how we understand human limitations.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer today. First, a new definition of disability. Then, the purpose of being alive. Next, analyzing causes of hardship. After that, the soul and reincarnation. And finally, breaking the cycle of complaint.
All right, Section 1. A new definition of disability.
Right out of the gate, this framework completely flips the script on the conventional, strictly medical view of what it means to be impaired. The crucial point here is that a disability isn't just defined as a physical limitation or a missing limb. Instead, the speaker defines it as a state where the very order of human existence has collapsed. It includes anyone experiencing profound mental anguish, basically anyone who is quite literally being driven mad because their life is completely out of their control. According to this view, mental and situational breakdowns are absolutely just as much of a disability as physical ones.
And what's super interesting is how the speaker grounds this concept in everyday society. They make this really striking point. Even a wildly successful, wealthy corporate CEO can be considered disabled under this definition if they're entirely consumed by mental suffering. If they simply can't find peace when things don't go their way. Worldly success, money, status, none of that protects you from this broader definition of impairment. It really frames suffering and that feeling of a lack of control as a truly universal human issue, no matter your tax bracket.
Moving right along to Section 2, the purpose of being alive.
So, if suffering and disability in this broad sense are universal, what's the actual philosophical premise behind why we go through them? The source text drops this incredibly intense direct quote, "If you are alive, there is a reason. If there is no need for you to be alive, nature cleans it up." It's blunt for sure, but it is a foundational pillar of this worldview. The speaker is essentially asserting that your mere existence is absolute proof that you have a specific, necessary purpose to fulfill in society. According to this framework, nature just doesn't make mistakes. If you're breathing, even right in the middle of terrible hardship, you're here to do something important.
So what exactly is that purpose for humanity right now? Well, the text introduces these concepts called the Hangik Ingan and the Doltung Gunja. These terms described enlightened humanitarian leaders, or what the speaker beautifully refers to as social parents. The whole idea suggests that our current era, with all its societal madness and widespread mental suffering, is actually the exact environment where these leaders are meant to emerge. Humanity is desperately waiting for deeply capable, compassionate individuals to step up and guide a struggling society out of the darkness.
Okay, Section 3, Analyzing Causes of Hardship.
How does this philosophy actually diagnose the specific root causes of the different types of suffering we face? Well, it uses this strictly educational logic, dividing hardship into two distinct categories, and this brilliantly illustrates the framework's core idea. Congenital hardship, meaning something a person is born with, is viewed as an environment specifically designed to educate and serve as a study curriculum for the parents. On the flip side, acquired hardship, something that happens to you later in life, is designed as a curriculum to educate the individual themselves. It's this deeply impartial lens that views literally all hardship as a highly customized educational tool.
But you have to remember, the framework doesn't view these hardships in a vacuum. It's all deeply interconnected. For instance, an acquired hardship doesn't just hit the individual. It ripples out and causes pain to the parents too. The speaker actually says this pain is karmically distributed by percentages, meaning the suffering is mathematically shared based on who specifically needs to learn from the event. The big takeaway here is the belief that nothing is random. Every single challenging event in a family unit has a precise underlying reason meant to force us into self-reflection.
Next up, Section 4, the soul and reincarnation.
To really wrap our heads around this framework's view on limitations, we have to look at the metaphysics. And honestly, it's a pretty uplifting spiritual concept. The source material explains that while your physical body might be damaged, disabled, or limited, your soul itself is a complete, perfect, and divine entity, which it refers to as Shin. The framework insists that your core spiritual essence is completely untouched and totally unaffected by whatever physical or situational flaws you happen to be experiencing right now in the material world.
Let's zoom out and look at how this builds into the grander timeline of the soul's journey. The soul only experiences these targeted hardships while it is temporarily housed inside a physical body. At the end of life, the soul sheds that physical shell and immediately returns to its complete, unblemished divine state. From there, according to the speaker, it can reincarnate, getting a brand new body to continue its activities and learning in the future. This perspective radically shrinks the scale of our current hardships, basically framing them as these brief educational blips on an eternal timeline. Finally, Section 5, Breaking the Cycle of Complaint.
Okay, so after all that deep metaphysical exploration, the text pivots to something highly practical. This is the prescribed solution for halting a downward spiral in your life right now. The speaker lays out 3 very clear, actionable steps for anyone suffering from physical, mental, or situational hardship. Step 1, you must immediately stop complaining about your current environment. Step 2, rather than being angry, you need to objectively study your situation and your own actions to understand why you're there. And step 3, you must figure out how you can still be useful and necessary to society, completely regardless of your limitations.
Now, the urgency behind step 1 is explained here. The speaker explicitly warns that complaints breed more complaints. In this framework, complaining is literally a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're constantly emitting negative thoughts and dissatisfaction, you will actively attract worse environments and even greater hardships into your life. Because of that, you absolutely must freeze your complaining right at your current level of difficulty, or it will inevitably snowball to a point where you just can no longer handle it.
The source material closes with this really powerful call for radical empathy. Nature provides environments fairly. We must know there are all kinds of lives and embrace our brothers. Even though the curriculum of hardship can seem totally brutal from the outside looking in, the speaker views nature as ultimately fair, tailoring every single life to exactly what that specific soul needs to learn. It's a call to look at the diverse, struggling people around us, not with pity or judgment, but by fully embracing their unique, necessary paths.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought to ponder. Based on the entire framework we just unpacked today, how would your life change if you viewed your greatest hardship not as a curse, but as a customized curriculum for your soul? It is a profound paradigm shift that moves us from being passive victims of circumstance to active students of life. Thank you so much for joining me to explore these deep, structured concepts today. I really hope this explainer gave you some incredible new perspectives to reflect on. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.